Hello, and welcome to EduCurious, where we highlight exceptional educators and dive deep into complex issues. Today's guest is Jerri Sackett, Emergency Management and Community Project Senior Planner. Welcome, Jerri.
Thank you so much for having me on, Amber.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I've known you for over 30 years. You play an integral part in safety of our area, but more importantly, in harnessing a bunch of people to accomplish an end goal. So tell us a little bit about what you do on a day to day basis.
My official title is Emergency Management and Community Project Senior Planner for Central Florida Regional Planning Council. I'm both out in the field. I conduct hazardous analysis site inspections, small quantity generator waste inspections, in addition to helping the 5 counties in our region with various emergency management and community projects, writing local mitigation strategies, comprehensive emergency management plans, assisting with the counties with teaching some trainings for incident command system, which is often for law enforcement, firefighters, and then those working in an emergency operations center or EOC.
Now, the reason that this is a fascinating topic to us as educators, one is the capacity and the collaboration between schools and emergency response crews during weather crisis. And two, if there's ever a really big emergency, doing reunification plans. So it really does go hand in hand. But tell us a little bit about that aspect of your partnership with schools and local education institutions.
The collaboration in Polk County with all the various jurisdictions, agencies, the school board, everything is absolutely phenomenal. What a lot of people don't understand is how early that communication with the schools begins in regards to the schools that are used as shelters. So there's Florida Statute 252, which is for emergency management. And part of that statute actually states that schools will be used as shelters because where else are you going to have a large structure that you can house hundreds, if not thousands of people? There is certain criteria the state has for a school to be considered a shelter. The building requirements exceed typical building code. And so even for trying to, like in Polk County, trying to have more shelters in areas such as Frostproof or Fort Meade, like Wales, that may not have shelters, we work with the state and they have state retrofit funds, and it's a very lengthy process. So it's best to work with a school board or a school early on with the collaboration when they're starting to either renovate or if they're starting to build, to see about potentially integrating some of those building codes so that they can be used as a shelter.
So if I'm a new administrator in a school and I'm interested in partnering and becoming a sheltered location, how do I start that process? What do I do first?
The first thing you want to do is reach out with your local emergency management office. There are 67 counties and there are 67 emergency management directors in the state. So definitely reach out to them, especially for the private side and the charter side for schools. Reach out to them to find out what you can do to better assist during those times. They're very stressful times, not only for the students and everyone and the residents, but put yourself in, you're the director and you're away from your friends, your family, you're in the EOC, and all of a sudden all communication goes down with your family. For example, Verizon, we had a Verizon outage after Hurricane Milton. And so at the EOC, if you were on Verizon, there was no communicating in or out with your friends and family. You had to find another way of doing it. And so that creates another level of stress for those who are working these events.
Give us an idea of different scenarios that the emergency management department would be employed to come help with.
Emergency management can be involved in every aspect, whether it's emergency preparedness planning with the schools. So Polk County doesn't have a specific emergency management program, but they have staff that assume those same roles. But for example, Orange County School Board actually has a program where they specialize and they focus for the schools on preparedness and safety measures. Emergency management can get involved in anything. We can come in and talk to the children about disaster preparedness. You have your active shooter, your mass casualty incidents that can occur. A hurricane is considered a noticed event, whereas maybe a tornado from a thunderstorm that moves through, that is a no notice event. So you have a variety of different events that emergency management works. Overall, county emergency management, I consider them the middleman between your local governments and your state governments, the middle person that helps coordinate what's going on. If your local governments need assistance or resources, personnel, it could be an urban search and rescue team, it could be additional ambulances. You work through the county emergency management to coordinate those, and then county emergency management reaches up to the state to help coordinate all those different resources. While our region is 5 counties, I'm actually able to deploy to any of those counties if they request it. So it could be that they have major flooding, hurricane, tornado. If they need assistance, they know they can reach out. And there's 2 of us in our office that are able to go out and assist our counties with primarily in planning functions. So helping coordinate situational awareness, data, and the various types of plans and meetings that occur for activations. So for county emergency management, they are, of course, at the county level, they're that middleman between your local agencies. They're coordinating with the schools to open shelters, when is the best time to open shelters, because it's not just we're opening the shelter tomorrow. It's, well, okay, we're expected to have this hurricane make land, start impacting us with severe weather in 5 days. Well, it takes us 3 days to get all of the shelter equipment to the special needs shelters set up and ready to go before we open. So already we're down to 2 days, and then coordinating all of that with the school board. In the emergency operations centers, you will have a Red Cross liaison who's there to help. So typically they will only help with the small rural counties, and it'll be something where they send, say, 4 or 5 people to run a shelter because it's that small of an area. Other than that, Red Cross is great at coordinating, and they even conduct their own damage assessment after the storm and share their findings with the county. And then they also have their own grants and other opportunities for helping the residents who have been affected. Then you have other agencies, you have Team Rubicon, you have United Way, you have the Freedom Tour, you have all these different, almost like private nonprofits that come out and help. After Hurricane Idalia, I deployed up to Dixie County in the Panhandle to help for 7 days. And we were having issues getting just basic like toiletry supplies, deodorant, and soap for the residents. So I made a phone call to the Freedom Tour, and within a day or 2, we had several truckloads of supplies and food show up. So just from working and collaborating here locally and then deploying somewhere else in Florida, I was still able to help make that connection. And so then now Dixie County has that connection for their volunteer coordinator.
How important are volunteers in this whole system?
Volunteers are extremely important. These volunteer organizations, when you collaborate with emergency management, it actually helps take some of that fiscal responsibility away from the counties or the cities because they can count on those volunteer hours. But again, you have to have that record keeping, and you have to have that communication, that collaboration with the county in order for them to be able to utilize those hours to help them financially.
And if I wanted to volunteer in that capacity, who do I reach out to?
So for Polk County, they actually have a volunteer department that manages that. They do background checks. They keep track of what languages do you speak, and then they're able to reach out to their volunteer pool when any type of volunteers are needed. So it's not even during an emergency or a disaster. It could be for anything going on. They would be able to reach out to that volunteer pool.
Tell me about kind of the structure and what you're in charge of, you specifically.
I came into the Regional Planning Council with 12 years of county emergency management experience. I was familiar with the region because we had the same regions through Florida Division of Emergency Management. So I already knew a lot of the same people that I'm dealing with. It's just on a slightly different capacity. So instead of me being the one updating all the EOC books and making sure everything is organized and getting the trainings prior to hurricane season aligned and updated, instead now I'm actually kind of participating in those, but for 5 counties. Plus I'm also part of the all hazards incident management team for regions 4-6. So there's always opportunities to deploy also across the state or even out of state for various disasters that occur. The All Hazards Incident Management Team. It's called Incident Command System. We all have that same basic training across the board. So it doesn't matter if I deploy to North Carolina or I deploy to Dixie County. If I say, hey, who's the incident commander? I need to speak with that person. They all know exactly what it is I'm talking about. And it's all hazards because it doesn't matter on the type of disaster or incident that occurs, because what you're doing when you deploy or even just working at a local EOC, it's all going to be the same.
Can you walk us through how you got from where you started way back when we were little kids to where you are today?
So I ended up going through Firefighter 1 training and becoming a certified volunteer firefighter for the state of Florida. That ended up breaking me into the emergency management career because I didn't even know that type of career was even possible or existed. So I started as a secretary with Highlands County Emergency Management with a master's degree. How many people have a master's degree and want to go and start working as a secretary? But for me, it was getting your foot in the door. So whatever it takes, I always tell them you're not any better than anyone else because you have a piece of paper that says you have some Now, when it comes to emergency management, they want to see a bachelor's degree, and the state has requirements for county emergency management directors and what level of education and experience they are to have to be in that role now. But overall, my bachelor's is in business management, my master's is in criminal justice, and I'm now working on my doctorate in public administration. I just slowly really worked my way up with Highlands County. I ended up getting another job as, I can't remember what the title was, but then I worked with the grants emergency management received. Then I went to Hardy County and I did grants, public education, and outreach. I mean, pretty much everything because there was only 2 of us. So it's not like there was clear defined roles for I only did this and she only did that. It was we did have to work together because we are there to ensure that the public and our community is prepared and ready to respond. From there, I went to Polk County, and that really took off my ability to take trainings and expand my knowledge and experience, deploy to Dixie County. So I would say for anyone who's interested in that, reach out to someone that you know that's in EM or to the county emergency management directors and find out if you can go in and you can shadow them. When I was with Polk, we had several people that would do that because they wanted to know more information to find out what it was really like to work in the shoes or out in the field, so to speak, for the day. Always keep a pair of tennis shoes in your car because you never know when you're dressed nice and you have sandals or heels on, and then you're going to have to transition to the field. So I will say, always keep a pair of tennis shoes or boots in your car just in case that happens, because it has.
Have you noticed any particular personality type really excelling in this high-paced career field?
I think they all do because every county has, and you even have private agencies that are part of emergency management. You have state level emergency management, you have federal level, and there's place for everyone. It's just a matter of finding your niche and where you best fit and what you're comfortable with. When I was in school, I was the quiet, shy person. I wasn't going to ask questions in class. I was the same way in college. I did not want to do public speaking. And yet here I am with this career where I'm always up in front of people, talking, presenting, conducting trainings, facilitating different types of exercises. So it's just once you get your foot in the door, you figure out what it is that you enjoy the most and you continue to work towards that. And sometimes it's going to mean leaving agencies behind that you absolutely loved working for, but you also have to do what's best for you so that you can continue moving on up.
I feel like there's the correlation between educators and civic duties, like helpers. Like you are a helper to rescue people in the time of crisis. It's that compassion for humanity. And so I think this resonates with a lot of people who are in the education field. What are some of your goals and dreams for the next couple years as you lead this department and as you finish up your doctorate? How do you want to serve in a higher capacity?
There is it's actually focused for girls, but it's called Hurricane Camp and it's HER. And I want to work on bringing that somewhere in one of our counties and to be able to facilitate that. It's a week-long girls summer camp, and that enables them to see aspects of public safety that maybe they weren't aware of. So it gives them an idea of more of what's out there job wise, career wise. I've worked with a couple different counties in the past with their camps. I definitely have a lot of support for that. So I would like to be able to do something to bring more awareness, because there are more women breaking into emergency management, but I still feel like at times they don't always have the credibility because they're female. So maybe getting them in earlier and them being able to make a name for themselves and already having everything that they've accomplished would then help further facilitate their career in emergency management.
You have such a passion for this career field, and you obviously worked hard working your way up. What are some moments that really inspired you to become who you are today?
I like to consider myself a very organized person, and I like knowing, okay, if A happens, we're going to do B. I'm also always thinking ahead, so that plays great into my role as a planning section chief. So, for example, during COVID, when everything was shutting down, well, hurricanes didn't shut down for COVID. We still had hurricane season. So we're meeting and we're talking about what we're going to do. How are we going to have less people come in? Because all of these are extremely important roles. And so they're in the EOC because we need them in the EOC. And so I brought up, well, how are we going to feed all these people? Because previously it was in the EOC for food, it's big open trays of food and you would just serve yourself. Well, with having COVID now, that's not recommended as being anything safe to do. And then all of a sudden it was, we have a bigger problem on our hands than just figuring out who definitely is coming in. And it's, how are we going to safely be able to feed all of these folks and feed our special needs shelter? Just being able to think ahead at other possibilities that might occur, whether it's obstacles or roadblocks, just kind of helped get me to where I am today.
So, what's your perspective on effective systems in a disaster emergency?
In order for me to be able to help anyone else, I have to make sure I'm prepared at home. So I have to make sure that I have things at home ready to go. And so going out and conducting public education, we talk about having your 7-day food supply and all this. It's just me living at home alone. And I know most of the time I'm going to be deployed, so I don't need that 7-day supply, but I still do my best to practice what I preach, so to speak. So whatever I'm telling folks that they should be doing is what I also need to be doing. And then for other things is just being prepared in general, having your way of being organized, having a notebook at home that has all of your insurance policy information, emergency contacts. So we all have these wonderful cell phones. What if your cell phone dies? Now what are you going to do? You don't have any numbers memorized. But if you have them written down, then you're going to be able to ask someone, hey, can I borrow that cell phone? So it's just having those types of systems in place.
As we go through our yearly hurricane season, what are some things that you encourage us as people to be prepared for, but more importantly, us as educators, where we are right there with our young population?
Just realize that, at least on the aspect of sheltering, there is a lot that goes into at what point schools will be closed in order for it to be reopened as a shelter. And policymakers have to make this decision well in advance. They cannot wait until the last minute. So often it seems like we've put the cart before the horse, because now the hurricane is no longer hitting Tampa. It's now completely missing Florida and going up to hit New Orleans. And they're like, well, we just closed schools. We've even had some governments close. There's a lot that goes into getting these locations ready to go. That's why they have to make that decision to close early. And instead of complaining about it, which I see that a lot on Facebook after the fact, is would you rather be prepared for the worst case scenario? Or would you rather be complaining that you had a loved one who became seriously injured because they weren't able to go to a shelter because it didn't open in time?
Being right there with the kids, how do we prepare? How do we, I don't know, how do we set the tone for stuff?
I think it would be great if schools would begin including some sort of a disaster preparedness type course. Even though we're in Florida and everything is hurricane, but focusing on other aspects that we're seeing happen throughout the state, which is we get a major rain event and now all of a sudden we have houses that are flooding. Going through and just helping students understand what they could be doing at home. Not only emergency management field, so to speak, with public education, but incorporating that into the schools and understanding that the difficulty some of these students are going to have because when the shelters closed down, some students are still going to be without a home. They might still be having to be in a long-term housing type situation, living out of a hotel room because their home was destroyed. I think teachers are great at their empathy, but just ensuring that they have a better understanding of what their students are going through and why their students might be acting out or maybe sleeping in class during the day after a major incident has occurred.
What else do you wish that educators or administrators knew more about that would be helpful to you?
Having all the different plans in place for all the what ifs, because anymore it seems like it's not a what if, it's a when it's going to happen. And that is anything from an active shooter to a no notice event like a tornado through from a thunderstorm. If something major happens and you can no longer teach at that school for the rest of the year, where are you going to move all of these students and children to in order for them to continue their education, for your teachers to continue teaching? Every year, multiple times a year, you have your fire drills, but including other things. You have your mass casualty. Where are we going to go? How are we going to do this? And I think the other thing that would be interesting, which it's called a community emergency response team. And so they go through and they get additional training on like triage and basic first aid. And so if there's something that happens, a lot of times you would be able to pull them in as well to help with certain situations that occur or just to volunteer at a shelter. Volunteers are always needed. When it comes to after the fact for an incident, money is the best thing you can donate. It's so easy to donate and go, well, here's all my hand-me-downs. These are the clothes I'm not wearing. You have areas that are inundated with all this clothing that they can't give away anymore because things have gotten back to normal. That whole area is now saturated with clothing and then nobody wants it. Whereas if money is donated, whether it was if you donated something after Hurricane Helene up in the Carolinas, money gets used where it's needed. And down here in Polk County, a lot of times we request for donations to be made to the United Way. The United Way is a huge help in Polk County. Again, along with like One Child, Freedom Tour, Red Cross, Salvation Army.
So if the school without notice gets shut down for whatever reason, what have you seen in the past? What do we do? Where do we go? Do we partner with churches, with community locations? What have you seen that normally happens and unfolds?
I've only experienced that once, and that was when a tornado did damage a school, and that was back in 2019. I think it was a school in the Kathleen Lakeland area. And what they ended up doing was temporarily moving students to other surrounding schools, making use of the cafeterias or the gyms, any kind of empty portables, classrooms, in order to make the best of it. But schools still need to have some type of plan in place, or even just in the classroom. If something suddenly happens in your classroom and you can't use your one classroom, what are you going to do? What are the important things you need to take with you so that you can continue teaching? Can't take everything, but what are the important things you need to take? You need to take your computer, writing utensils, that sort of thing.
Where are some resources that we can direct people to go to find out more about getting a program at their school or looking to see prepared tips? Where would you direct people?
Definitely follow your local county emergency management on social media. There's also Florida Division of Emergency Management. Their website is floridadisaster.org. Florida Department of Education has an emergency management little section on their website. It's just following and seeing what your local agencies are recommending, what they're sharing for what you should be doing or what you should be knowing about.
And I know you have a list of all of the shelters in our area. Where would we go find that list? Where is that posted? How do we get access to it?
You can reach out to Polk County Emergency Management and request a PDF of the map. It's a huge double-sided map. It's something that they have published every year. It is also available at most libraries in the county, and then several of the Publix locations will also distribute those maps. But if you reach out to Polk County Emergency Management, if you wanted to pick them up for, say, your school, it would have to be on small quantity because they don't get that many in every year to be able to pass out to every single school. But if you wanted to pass it out to, say, the teachers at the school, you could definitely reach out to them for that. And then they also come out and conduct public education, talk about disaster preparedness and what you should do and how you should prepare for these different things. When it comes to the CERT, you would want to reach out to Polk County Fire Rescue, to their community emergency response team advisor. So that's Kathy Sellen. So you'd want to reach out to her and she would be able to definitely assist in that. It's not if, but when all of this is going to happen to us. We may not have the significant impact from a hurricane like they will on the coast with schools flooding with storm surge, but we still have schools who could potentially, with enough rainfall, or damage to a roof, could flood out a building. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen. And in order to be prepared, we have to go through our supply kits every year, make sure our food is still not out of date, have mechanical can openers so that you can open your can of, beanie weenies when you don't have any power. And then just bring these types of programs into your classroom to be able to help the students better understand what they should also be doing to prepare back at their house.
Well, that's been great advice. I appreciate your time. It's so good to see you.
Too.
And whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.